Hey there, my name is Alex, I am the Silver Mont, and in this video we're going to look at a topic that has been going around, well, for years now. Do we need easy mode, or something like that, in Dark Souls? Do we need difficulty options? As mentioned, this is a conversation that has been going on for years, with many people claiming that these games have too high a barrier of entry for everyone to enjoy, and that there's no harm in making it easier for people to jump in and enjoy. I'm going to try and look at both sides of the argument, but I will tell you right now that I know how I feel about it. That said, I welcome you to share your feelings and opinions on it, and if you feel like Dark Souls needs difficulty options in particular, please do tell me why you think that. But I know how I feel, and we'll start with that. I do not believe Dark Souls needs an easy mode or difficulty options. The reasons I have for this are threefold. First up, the most contentious and subjective stance, I don't think Dark Souls is all that hard. Now this of course depends on which game in particular we are talking about, but the first Dark Souls is not a very difficult game by my measure. Now, certainly, as the series progressed, we had newer and harder bosses, such as the infamous Fume Knight in Dark Souls 2, and various bosses in Bloodborne in Dark Souls 3, and well, many in Shadows Die Twice. Everyone is going to have a different experience with difficulty, whether it be personal skill, experience, or even a generational thing. People who were born in the year 2000 are going to have a different experience to people born in the 80s or the 90s. For more on this particular topic, you can always go look at my other video I made a few years back, specifically about Dark Souls difficulty being overblown. I'd be repeating myself to go in depth as, well, I spent like 20 minutes talking about it in that video. So we'll move on to the second point. Dark Souls doesn't need an easy mode because difficulty options are already built into the game organically in how you choose to play, rather than picking easy, normal, or hard from a menu. What do I mean by that? Well, there are plenty of ways to make the game easier for yourself. Inside the game you have things like summoning. Now sure, summoning other players comes with the risk of being invaded, but it's very simple to summon by a fog gate and then hop right into the boss, not like the invader can follow you in there. You can also play offline and summon NPCs for many fights, in the more recent games, not in Dark Souls 1. I mean, I guess you could, there's just not a dedicated offline mode. Then we have things like grinding souls, grinding levels, improving your armor and weapons. If hard mode is playing the game at level 1, then easy mode would be grinding out levels to increase the power of your character. There are also things like poise in the first game, or certain spells and weapons that can make the game a lot easier. If you're wearing full Havels, using a Painting Guardian blade, or anything else that causes bleed, and you buff it, the game's going to be kind of a cakewalk. On that topic, we have out-of-game info. Look at how many boss guides and walkthroughs exist for these games. I've made some myself. Now, and I'm not gonna boast, but I get comments saying like, oh, I was trying this boss for an hour, then I tried, I used this strategy and I beat it first try. There's so many people out there who are willing to help, directly or indirectly, with guides and videos, or just saying, oh, well, you're stuck on this boss, oh, summon me, I'll steamroll it for you if you want. I mean, if you really want to go into it, you could use, like, cheats as an out-of-game kind of manipulation. I wouldn't really condone it, but, they do exist. Naturally, we'll sometimes run into encounters where stats and strategies won't really help as much as they might because, well, there isn't really much of a strategy for certain fights other than, don't get hit. And the boss enemy is seemingly too powerful, too hard, too fast. In those situations, well, yeah, you either need to keep practicing or summon other players until you can manage to defeat it. Which leads into my last point on why I believe Dark Souls does not need an easy mode. It is how these games are designed. The developers have a vision for their game, they balance it in such a way that they know exactly what every player will experience, the only difference being in how they experience it. It's a lot easier to balance a game around one difficulty setting, making sure players always get the intended encounter. To that effect, not every game needs to be for every player. Detractors will claim this is gatekeeping, which is a ridiculous accusation. I don't have the physical ability to compete with Olympic athletes, because that takes months or years of dedication and training, which is quite a far cry from playing a game that doesn't really demand too much from the player other than your time and maybe some hand-eye coordination. things do not have to cater to everyone. That is not gatekeeping. I'm not saying you shouldn't play this game, I'm saying you should play it. I would love if everyone who plays video games played Dark Souls. People who say it's too hard, well, keep trying. In the case of Dark Souls, there are plenty of options for you to succeed as long as you put in the time and the effort. Asking for more is having unreasonable expectations, and you're not really looking at the bigger picture. You're having a knee-jerk reaction because a boss beat you a few times and you threw your controller and gave up. Look at Dark Souls 2. 54% of PS4 players have defeated the Looking Glass Knight. We can't even say that's 54% of people who fought him, as you have to account for people who maybe rented the game and didn't get that far. They borrowed it from a friend, or maybe they gave it back after a day. Maybe they played it once and lost interest, or who knows. And that doesn't even count for people who are playing offline and don't have all that stuff synced. But even so, if that was 54% of players who fought him had defeated him, that's not exactly unreasonably hard. You're saying half of the players can beat this boss. How's that unreasonable? How about Dark Souls 3? 61% of players have defeated the Twin Princes on PS4. These are pretty good scores, if you can really call it a score. But let's compare it with two popular games that have difficulty settings. Dragon Age Inquisition's trophy for beating the story has only been acquired by 27% of players. So purely looking at numbers, a higher percentage of people beat Dark Souls than Dragon Age, which has a story mode difficulty setting where everything is very easy and smooth going. I'm using Dragon Age as a comparison because, well, it has a difficulty selection, and I've actually been playing it again recently, and it's a game of roughly similar player count. Dark Souls 3, so far as we know, has sold something like 10 million copies to date. Dragon Age Inquisition, after a few years, sold something like 6 million. It might be higher now, who knows. But hey, Dragon Age is pretty long, right? So how about a short game with difficulty options that's really popular, like, say, Call of Duty? I picked the most popular one I could find info on, Modern Warfare 3. Beating the campaign on any difficulty has a trophy achievement rate of 50%. That's still lower than Dark Souls. Of course, there are a lot of circumstances and context one can consider when looking at these numbers, as mentioned, They don't account for every individual case, but these are looking at huge pools of players, and we can see that even if you have difficulty options, it isn't necessarily going to change anything. So let's look at a hypothetical situation wherein they released a Dark Souls 4 comes out, and it has story mode where enemies do 25% of the damage they would otherwise. Instead of attacking, once a second, they attack once every 10 seconds. Would that mean more players beat it? By no means is that a guarantee, because it isn't the amount of damage or the amount of attacks or anything like that which is stopping people from beating these games. More likely, we would be in that situation where we have story mode and still people would be complaining that things are too hard, or this trap isn't fair, or this or that happened, and we need the game rebalanced once again. See, most of the arguments I see for having difficulty are the following. How does it impact you? Because you can keep playing the way you usually do. And the other argument is, but some people struggle because of a physical condition. Maybe they have bad eyes, or they're missing a limb, that sort of thing, right? Well, let's look at the first argument. This one is born entirely of ignorance, because it would impact everyone. If you spend time and budget on balancing 3 different difficulty settings, that is going to take time away from another area of the game. Or it means one difficulty might be fine and the other 2 might be janky and busted. There are so many games where the difficulty settings are complete nonsense. Are we saying that FromSoft need to completely change how they allocate time and resources and develop their games for a tiny but vocal percentage of their players who aren't even going to play the game in the intended way? Should I expend extravagant amounts of time and effort and probably money translating my videos into Morse code for the one person in the world who somehow consumes all of their media through the medium of Morse code? Let's assume they managed to put in easy, normal, and hard mode with a magical button that did all the work for them. you're going to run into problems, such as, what about people who want to defeat a boss or an item that they want to use to invade others? Let's say the Dragon of Eternal Face Bursting drops a spell or a katana, and it's the most overpowered PvP weapon, but it's obtained from a really hard boss. Well, no worries, just make your invader on easy mode, beat the boss on easy mode, grab the weapon, then invade people who are on hard mode. Are we going to say that easy mode players can't invade? Or that we're going to split each difficulty into its own matchmaking pool? There's no ideal solution here. So yes, it absolutely does affect people like me. You're going to try and ruin the game for the majority of players just so that it works for you, because you are the one who doesn't want to put in the effort to actually play it the intended way. And somehow that is everyone else's problem but yours. So how about making it easier for people with physical conditions? For starters, I personally haven't seen too many people claiming that themselves. If that is your sort of situation, then again, please do let me know. Largely, I see it coming from other people saying it on behalf of others, like, Dark Souls is too hard, how are you supposed to play this if, I don't know, you don't have hands, or you're blind? Now for starters, you shouldn't complain about things on behalf of other people, because that just comes off kind of disingenuous. It sounds like you're saying, I find Dark Souls too hard, but I'm going to use this person as an excuse for me to complain about it. But again, this doesn't really come down to a problem with the game, it's more specifically how we interact with the game. But you know, people have defeated Dark Souls under all manner of circumstances, from a guy who blindfolded himself and beat Artorias without being hit, and using a piano, to someone who defeated Slave Knight Gale using his chin. Was it hard for them? Did it take a lot of practice? Absolutely. I believe the guy who beat Gale spent like 5 or was it 10 hours just on that fight. But if you aren't going to try, how can you expect to succeed? I don't want easy mode because I don't want them to compromise the game design to cater towards someone who doesn't want to play the game properly and isn't prepared to put in any amount of effort. The developers have never said they want these games to be brutally difficult. They aren't Itagaki, who deliberately made things harder because testers annoyed him and said it was too hard. They aren't the Final Fantasy XI team who put out nightmares such as Absolute Virtue and Pandemonium Warden, and then when people beat these bosses after like fighting them for like 15 hours straight, they patched it and removed that method because they were like, that's not the right way to play the game. If you put in the effort, I am certain almost anyone can beat Dark Souls. If you aren't prepared to put in that effort, whether it's a little or a lot, why are you insistent on clearing the game in the first place? Why do you demand that it caters to you? Why should it? What possible reason should there be for them to cater towards you when you're clearly not the intended audience for this product? Should I go and watch TV shows that clearly aren't for my sort of demographic or for someone of my interest and demand that they cater for me? Why would I do that when there's plenty of other things that cater for me? And there are plenty of games out there that are very casual and easygoing and not very punishing, and you can just enjoy a sort of relaxed experience. How about if you are entirely unable to play the game for one reason or another? Well, at that point, it doesn't matter how easy they make it, because you can't play anyway, so you might as well just partake in the community. Watch videos, maybe have a friend play it for you, interact with them. Videos have played a large role in the Souls community since 2009, with people sharing boss guides, exploration, talking about the world and story. There are still ways to enjoy the community, even if you can't play the game for whatever reason. This isn't about gatekeeping. Almost everyone I know who enjoys Dark Souls would love if more people played it. It's a game we love to share and talk about. I mean, I've been making videos talking about how much I love Dark Souls for like, I don't know, 8 years or something at this point. And if you come up to me and say, Dark Souls is too hard for me, I'm not going to say, well, go away. I'm going to say, well, have you tried this? Have you tried that? That is not gatekeeping just because I don't want the experience of the game compromised for myself and for you. I've personally played through the Souls games, especially the first one, many, many times, often with people who aren't very good at video games. But you know what? Using co-op, telling them to use certain items, giving them hints, giving them tips, they've always managed to clear them, even the optional bosses. I know that's a very small example, it's just me, but I feel it's worth pointing out. There is only one good argument I've seen thus far on this whole topic, and that is accessibility. What I mean by that would be things like colorblind options, things of that nature, less about gameplay, more about presentation and how the game is provided to us. Larger fonts, higher contrast, even things like no button mashing, but holding the button instead. Because, some people might have RSI or whatever, why they have these sort of things. I'm okay with most of these options, because they aren't really changing the experience of the game. They're merely allowing you to experience it in that intended way. If you can't read the text or see the UI properly, that's very different from not bothering to practice a boss and waving it away as impossible. As someone who is partially colorblind, I always enjoy seeing colorblind options in a game, even if I'm not using them. Look at Dark Souls. Phantoms and messages and things of that nature, they can be color coded. What if someone was entirely colorblind in that instance? Seeing two phantoms, one red, one yellow, would infer upon them a distinct disadvantage compared to someone who can distinguish them at a glance. These are options that would, again, need development time, but to be honest, using that particular example, an option to modify phantom colors in the menu would absolutely not be hard to implement, as it's more or less just tweaking RGB values. You just need an option to set the color of red phantoms and so on. So it's like hostile invader phantoms, default color red. Well, maybe you can change it to bright green, and your warriors of sunlight show up as purple. To summarize my thoughts, difficulty settings, no. Accessibility options, yes. I absolutely believe that if someone has the motivation, they can defeat any boss in Dark Souls. There is so much proof and evidence of this out there, so if you have evidence to the contrary, please do show me it. But it's not like any amount of motivation will make you less colorblind. So by all means, do tell me why you think Dark Souls might need an easy mode. More than that, how would you implement this in a way that is both realistic and works for all parties? Until next time, you guys take care. Thank you so much for watching, and see you soon.